Aloha and welcome. I'm so delighted to see all of you who are here today live for this conversation, this reset conversation. Thank you for taking time for yourself. And also to everyone who's watching on the replay. Thank you for your interest and for taking time to um, really pause and reflect and bring your daily rhythm back in line with what supports you and your best energy and your well-being. Now, today isn't just any day on the calendar, and it's not by accident that I chose this day for our conversation. It's August 8th, which is 808, and I love numbers, and this is a fun one. Um, 808 is the area code in Hawaii, and it's Friday, which is Aloha Friday. And that's a fun day, as we say on the island. But also late tonight and into tomorrow morning, we have a full moon, which often brings clarity and completion. And the moon at its peak illumination is the most potent phase for power, release, and manifestation. It shines light on your more subconscious thoughts and brings your attention inward, inviting you to get real with the world around you. I love that. Um, Also, whether or not you follow astrology, it's a beautiful invitation to reset with intention today. And adding to that, many spiritual traditions regard August 8th as a Lionsgate portal, a symbolic moment of heightened energy and a time for resetting intentions. So while its historical astronomical basis is debated right now, what matters most is the personal meaning and clarity it invites you to bring. It's just a beautiful time to reset. So whatever your beliefs, think of today as a compass check for your life. More about seeing where you are right now and where you want to steer next. So as we come into the space today, I invite you to close your eyes with me and take a long, slow, deep breath in and exhale through your mouth. And let yourself arrive fully in this moment. And since you're here and you signed up for a reset, I know you're ready for something to shift. Um, and that's super exciting to me. And thank you for that. By the time you leave here today, you'll have some tools to help you see where you are, where you want to go, and how to track your progress if you choose to change or create some new habits. And as we get started, I would like to emphasize that from my perspective, there's a really big difference between restarting and resetting. And I'm intentionally calling this a reset. Restarting is starting over, like wiping the slate clean. And that often comes with pressure, perfectionism, the idea that we have to fix ourselves. Resetting, on the other hand, is different. Resetting is coming back to what's already there, coming back to our best energy, our truest self, the bright light that shines within us. Over time, as we get caught up in the day-to-day doing, we can sometimes forget who we are at our core, at our essence. And we may start shaping ourselves to please others, to be more acceptable, or just to avoid rocking the boat. Today is a day to remember who we are and what we are here for. And when we reset, we're not changing into someone new. We're realigning our patterns and habits to embody who we already are. and to allow the authentic self to shine. So today it's the day to remember who we are, what we're here for, and it's about adjusting our daily rhythm so that it supports that essence, so that it's easier to live in that truth without having to think about it. And that's why we're going to use a wheel today, a reset wheel, to check in on the patterns and habits that either support the light within us or dim it. And think of it as a compass for how you want to feel and live. So I'm going to share my screen real quickly here. Okay. So this is our reset wheel, and on it, I've labeled the spokes around the anchors that I've been speaking of in some of the social media posts. These are anchors that I've identified in my own life and my resets, and also in working with lots of clients that choose to change, let's say that in that way. And so on the wheel, I've got the spokes for morning rhythm, movement, real food, support, and evening rhythm. And I'm providing a handout for this, so you'll have this to take with you today. And what I'd like for you to do is consider on a scale of 1 to 10 in each of these categories, what is um, your ideal state in each of these anchors. And this isn't meant to be anyone else's ideal state. This is yours. And so, for example, I don't want you thinking anything like, well, for morning rhythm, I should be doing some meditation and I should not have my phone on and I should I don't know, wake up with the sunrise, whatever, any of the shoulds. Let's not go there. And let's instead think of, I feel most aligned in my day when I wake up and then what is that for you? And how close to you are that? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate where you are um, against that ideal version? So we'll do that through all the spokes of the wheel. And I'm going to give you a few prompts to think about as you go through it. And I have a wheel here as well. So I will also be plotting my points and we'll share how our wheel looks after we go through the exercise. So for morning rhythm, how am I starting my day? Do I feel connected, present, and clear, or am I reacting and rushing? On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in your morning rhythm? Whatever that looks like to you. Got your point. The next one is movement. Am I moving my body in a way that feels good today? Whether it's a walk, a workout, stretching, or just getting outside. How am I moving? Where's the movement? Where am I now? Where do I want to be? Where do I aspire to be on a scale of 0 to 10? So let's say, for example, you'd like to, get your heart rate up every day. That's just an example, not a should. If right now you're hitting it about 2 or 3 times a week, maybe you're on the low end of the scale. If you're already doing it, maybe you're on the high end of the scale. That's how this works. So go ahead and give yourself a dot on the spoke, 1 dot on the spoke, where you think you fall between 0 and 10. And then the next spoke or anchor is real food. Am I eating mostly whole, unprocessed foods that balance my blood sugar, steady my mood, and keep my energy up? Where are you in that space? And this is a really, really important one, everybody. I want to stress it because I think sometimes, well, I think right now we're all getting more and more information on the dangers of highly processed food, ultra processed food. I want to offer for your consideration that any level of processing that's changing the natural state of food can actually play games with our mind. And this is coming from a book called The End of Cravings and the science behind food additives and foods that we've fortified and how, our body is naturally designed to respond to certain cues and triggers that we receive when we eat. But when we start messing with those, it leads to confusion. So I'll give you an example. If we are using 0-calorie sweeteners in foods, then our brain tastes the sweet and it looks for the calories or the energy that goes with it. And when it doesn't get it, starts to become uncertainty on what's going on here. And it could lead to a lot of things. So another example is with low fat or non-fat foods when our mouth has the feeling of a fat in food, and but let's say we're having a non-fat yogurt, so it feels like real yogurt, but it's not because it doesn't have the fat. We don't get the satiety from the fat. Our brain, it kind of goes, what's happening here? It gets confused. And that confusion, it leads to other like energetic and metabolic problems in our body, and how we process the food. So this is a really important one. Sorry to go on about that, but I'm very passionate about food and movement and all the anchors. So where are you on that scale? Let's put our dot there. Right. The next anchor is support. And for support, I'm talking about, let's see, am I giving myself and asking for the mental, emotional, and practical support I need through my relationships, mindset, and community? This one is important because none of us live, are living completely isolated and alone, right? We go out into the world. Um, Maybe we have an intention in our heart to be of service to others, to be kind to others, to be helpful to others. And in that, we need support to help manage what comes back at us as we are out shining our light in the world. So where are you on that scale? Do you feel supported? Do you feel that you have what you need emotionally, practically in the way of support? So get your dot there. And then the last anchor spoke on the wheel is this evening rhythm. Similar to the morning, ask yourself, I invite you to ask, how am I ending my day? Do I have time to unwind and reflect and reset? Or am I collapsing into sleep with a cluttered mind or overstimulated body? So whatever kind of evening routine or rhythm you see as ideal, think of that as your ideal state and where are you between not having an evening routine and having that ideal state. Plot your point. And after you have all your points, I will invite you to maybe get a straight edge and connect the dots. So we're gonna connect the dots to 3, 4. If you didn't exactly follow what I was talking about there, I'll show you mine. So in each spoke, I've got my points, and then I'll show you my picture where I've got my morning rhythm and movement high, food is good, support is medium, and evening rhythm is low. So everybody take a minute and look at your wheel. Where do you see the steadiness? And where do you want to give yourself a little more attention or care this month? So, whatever that is, wherever you are, go ahead and think about what you might do in that space. What's one action you can take starting today that will take you in the direction of where you want to go? All right. That completes the reset wheel, and I hope that was helpful to you all. You might have seen the wheel used in other exercises, and I really like it as, again, that visual of maybe indicating where there's balance, where there's imbalance, and where there's opportunities to take action to move in the direction you want to go. Now, shifting from that, we've got this compass and some idea of where we want to go every day. The next step is having a daily rhythm check-in and something that helps you stay aware of how you're traveling from day to day. So if we think of the wheel as the map, I'm going to now show you a daily tracker that can help you in real time keep track of how you're doing and maybe even start to see some patterns of what's going on. So let me go ahead and share that here. So the daily tracker, how I use this tool and how I work with my clients in this tool. This is a very, very important tool in the coaching practice that I have, is to check in these 5 categories every day. And I like to add this to my night routine. Um, Super, super helpful and insightful. So this check-in helps you build awareness of how these systems interact without tracking calories or being perfect. And the categories are your food, mood, energy, digestion, and cravings. So on food, we're talking about how nourishing and satisfying was your eating. Mood, how steady or reactive were you? Energy, do you feel sustained, fatigued, or fluctuating? Digestion, any bloating, discomfort, ease, or regularity? And cravings, were they strong, emotional, or minimal? And just to back up, this is again a handout that you'll have. I'm just going to go through this page that why we're looking at these 5. The thing is, our food doesn't just fuel our body, it also affects our mood and energy and digestion and cravings. They're all interrelated. And our mood often can influence what and how we eat. A little bit of science here. Research shows that blood sugar spikes and crashes can affect irritability, anxiety, and low mood. We also know from research that a healthy gut plays a key role in our mental well-being, and that emotional states like stress, sadness, and boredom can drive cravings and impulsive eating. And I know from my personal experience, this has been a huge um, area of learning and focus for me, especially in the past 10 years since I got my certification in health coaching, but even before that, and now even more relevant with quitting sugar, really going deeper into the brain and mood and food connection. So this is the actual tracking sheet. And again, you'll have this handout where this is a like a 7-day tracker. So before you end your day, just go through and score yourself from 1 to 5 in these categories. In this case, 1 will mean that it felt off today, and 5 is I'm feeling great. Again, these things are connected. And by having this documented with some notes, you can begin to see patterns over time. And sometimes what we see is I have a low mood, I have bad food. And sometimes there's really obvious connections. Sometimes you might find that you have a string of days where your food was really good, and then you had an off day, and you see that your energy and digestion were also off. It's things like that that bring awareness to how all of these components are interrelated. And once you have awareness, it helps with, I think, driving the changes that you might like to have. So if you realize that every time you have a certain food, your stomach gets messed up, then maybe that'll help you figure out what to do about that food. Do you want to eliminate it? Do you want to stop having it? Or do you want to just be aware that when you have it, it's going to mess up your digestion? And those are some kind of obvious examples, but I think you get the idea of how this could work and be really super insightful. So again, going to you will have those tools, and with that, that's really the content that I had for today. This is a Q&A or an Ask Me Anything. So I want to check in on questions. And I did receive a question by email. So I'm going to go there real quickly. Hopefully quickly. Sorry, folks. Bear with me here. Here we go. Questions. Question. Can you give us an example of how to fulfill protein requirements? For example, 110 grams of protein in 1 day. And the reason I ask this is that you hear that an animal protein diet is high in saturated fat, so it's bad for cardiovascular disease. But getting enough protein through a plant-based diet can be high in carbs and could lead to blood sugar spikes and insulin resistance. Is there a happy medium between plant-based and animal-based protein? What would you recommend? All right, I value this question, and there's no, well, I guess there is an easy answer. The easy answer, well, there's a lot of answers. So I'll start with answering the question about how to get like 110 grams of protein. And I will again share a couple of infographics. So we'll start with this one. If I can. Again, here, get ready to share my screen. This one. This is an example of 9 healthy lean proteins. Clearly, these are all animal proteins. And these are for 4-ounce portion serving sizes portions. That would be cooked 4 ounces. And the source is ketomaria.com. That's Maria Emmerich. She's a friend of my Quit Sugar Program Summit. And I follow her, and I value her advice and guidance. And so this is a snapshot of proteins for 4 ounces, protein grams for 4 ounces of a animal protein. Then I also went ahead and grabbed a 30 grams of protein for plant-based. So from beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds, and you can see some examples here. So you've got your beans and tempeh, tofu, seeds. Again, another great resource, optimizing nutrition. But for this specific question, I went ahead and did um, my Fitness Pal example of what 100 and this is actually going to be 125 grams of protein that I'm about to show, and I'll explain why here in a second. But this would be in a day. So what I did was this is my Fitness Pal, and I have a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. I only put the proteins in. I just for example purposes, I didn't put any vegetables, which if this was my day, I would add some probably leafy green vegetables, cooked green vegetables. Then what we see in the columns are calories, carbs, fat, protein, sodium, and sugars. And so we're going to focus on the protein column. So for breakfast, I have, and here's my boo-boo, 1.5 large egg instead of just one egg, and then a cup of egg whites, because that's just the way I do it. I don't have a problem eating like kind of a lot of eggs, but I prefer to have the egg whites as there's less fat. So all total for a breakfast like this, that's 35 grams of protein. Then for lunch, I have a 6-ounce chicken breast. So that's kind of the secret to this. How do you get this much protein in your day? If you can eat this serving size instead of a 4-ounce cooked portion, go to a 6-ounce cooked portion. That's how I manage getting the protein that I need for every day. And then again, for dinner, I have some salmon, 6 ounces of salmon, 38 grams of protein. So in a day, as this is written, that total is 128 grams of protein. Like I said, I kind of boo-booed on this egg. If it was only one egg and not 1.5 eggs, that would reduce the protein by 3 grams. And that's how we would actually be 125 grams of protein a day. So just a quick example of how to do it with animal based proteins. Now, the second half of the question is also really a great one because they're asking about cardiovascular health, probably cholesterol that's associated with animal foods, and then the concern with calories and the vegetarian proteins, and how can you balance it all? And the one thing that I just want to share from my personal experience is that I have what would be considered high cholesterol by traditional standards. However, with some other risk factors I had, I was able to actually get a coronary artery calcium scan, a CAC scan, to check if I had any problems with plaque buildup in my arteries, and my score was 0. That's not everybody, but I have seen a lot of evidence where people who have an animal-based protein preference have higher than what's considered normal cholesterol, and it's not an indicator of any other health problems. And we're seeing, more and more research about that cholesterol is not the standalone number, that there's your uh, lipoproteins and many other factors and things that we can measure to learn if we're at risk for cardiovascular disease or any unhealthy possible chronic illness. And so with that, this works for me. I will also share that in the past, prior to quitting sugar, in fact, I was vegan. I was completely vegan for 2 years and did get my protein and caloric needs met on a vegan diet. And it actually worked well for me. I felt really good in my body. And I was doing a lot of athletic training and things like that. But What didn't work for me was that I was using powders. I did use powders to supplement my protein, which are great and work for a lot of people. But for me personally, I had problems with the kind of the sweetness of some of the vegan foods that I was making and the tendency to binge eat even healthy vegan food. For example, I made foods that might have dressings made with cashews and dates. And although I might make a nice coleslaw with a nice dressing of cashew and date, I would end up eating all the coleslaw because of the sweetness of the cashew and the date dressing. And similarly, I would do kind of misuse food with the protein powders. I would have, say, protein powder with fruit, nuts, make these wonderful shakes and then have like three or four of them. So I continued to struggle with my relationship with food and overusing fruits, dried fruits, nuts, until I finally got to my breaking point and decided I wanted to quit sugar. When I did, I decided to eliminate anything that was sweet tasting to break the habit of having sweet tastes. And in that, I also decided to stop using anything that was ground down to a powder. So no sugar, no flours of any kind, not even bean flours, not even just like wheat flours, and then no wheat. And so by taking myself off of all those things and still wanting to get the protein that I needed, I added back eggs and fish. And then slowly, as I eliminated all grains, I decided to add more animal proteins. And that's kind of how I got back to where I am today. So the point of sharing all that is I was healthy, fit, and like performed well in my athletic activities and like felt good in my daily life as a vegan. And now as more kind of this carnivore keto, really I would call it a high protein, low carb lifestyle. So there's the answer to the question then is there's can't give a one size fits all recommendation because we have people that are maybe don't have the types of problems that I had with my relationship with food and sweets that thrive in the vegan lifestyle, in the vegetarian lifestyle. And I think it comes down to experimenting and learning what works for you to have the healthiest relationship with your food and your body and your energy. So I do hope that is helpful. And I really appreciate the question. Thank you. All right. So thank you again for being here today. That's going to wrap up this conversation. If you have other questions, feel free to email me at ingridhillhouse@gmail.com. I'd be happy to address anything that might have come up for you in the workshop today. And also, if you would like to go deeper into any of these reset anchors, that's what I'm here for. You have a compass being that wheel, you have a daily tracker to map out where you're going and how you're doing in the direction. If you need a guide along the way, I'm here. And I'm offering a 6 week reset package of coaching. I also can help with daily movement. So the reset coaching is all on basically mindset, setting your goals in each of the anchors and tracking your progress along the way to really move you in the direction of what feels most ideal and aligned for you to be the most fully expressed version of yourself as we head into fall. Um, which is what I forgot to say at the very beginning. We're heading into fall, which is a wonderful time to look back and reset and see. I mean, like we just came out of the summer and where our patterns and habits might have been a little disrupted, and here we are going into fall, and it's time to set some, direction, some intention on how we want to end the year. So I can help you get there. But also in the daily movement area, I'm a certified personal trainer from NASM, and can help you with if you are looking at building a foundation of fitness, just getting started, getting your body moving again. I call it daily movement coaching, 30-minute sessions 2 times a week, and also offer strength training, personal training, 1 hour sessions twice a week. If you're interested in any of that, feel free to reach out. But more than anything, if you have any questions about the reset, anything I've presented today, any of the tools that I've shared, I'm here and would love to um, hear your thoughts, concerns, and help you find clarity around where you want to go. All right. And with that, I will go ahead and close it out and just say again, Aloha Friday. Thank you, and I'll see you down the road. Bye.